Hey guys, I told you on the last video, we're gonna do some negative exponents now, okay? Which, remember back, like Algebra 1, would probably been the first time you saw it, but we also did some in Algebra 2. Remember, negative exponents make you flip the fraction over, move it to the denominator if it's just one solid number. So we're going to be working with fractional things that are created by the negative exponents. Okay, so that's just the difference. The nice thing is, we're still working with logs. You just got to remember, because we're working with negative exponents, it's going to change things around a little bit. So let's just actually, this is the easiest one. Log 4 of x equals negative 4. Remember, when the x is here, you're just solving for the answer. So this is actually pretty simple. So we have 4 to the negative 4 power equals x. See that? So 4 to the negative 4 power equals x. Okay. You know what? I'm going to move it over here. So 4 to the negative 4 power equals x. I'm going to move it over here because I need to move downward instead of sideways. So guys, remember, a negative power, this is what I just talked about. Remember, we're not allowed to really do anything with negative powers until they're positive. So a negative power makes you flip it over a fraction. The problem is I don't see a fraction here. There's no fraction here. But remember, I can create a fraction with any number by putting a 1 under it, remember? So that 4 to the negative 4 can become 4 to the negative 4 over 1. Okay, this needs to flip over. And now I have a positive 4. See that? So the answer is just going to be, now that's a positive, I can put that in the calculator, so it's going to be 1 over, 4 to the 4th. So again, I need to do 4 up caret 4, and 256, and guys, that's the answer. So 1 over 256 is the answer on that one, okay? Now again, that's the easiest one because really you're just simplifying. Okay. Now this is the one. These other ones are where they're going to get a little harder because your x is in different positions. So here, my base is 3. My exponent is x, and I'm trying to create a fraction, 1 over 81. So, now guys, here's the thing. I have a regular 3, but the answer needs to become a fraction. So remember, in a way, what has to happen? This has to flip over. Okay? So this 3 to the x needs to go to the bottom. So I need this 3 to the x to go to the bottom so that I can get that 81 on the bottom. So remember, what makes things, so again, I flipped over, didn't I? I flipped right here. I flipped. The 3 to the x on top became 3 to the x on the bottom. Just like here, the negative flipped. The negative flipped to a positive. So right here, guys, for this x to go to the bottom, that x must be a negative number. So I know my answer. So here, I'm just going to put the answer over here. I know my answer has to be a negative. I don't know exactly a negative what, but I know it has to be a negative because the 3x on the numerator has to go to the bottom so that I can get an 81 on the bottom. Now it's that trial and error. So I know it's going to be a negative something. Now I got to say 3 to what power, makes 81. So again, just do some trial and error, And it actually 3 to the 4th power, 3 up caret 4, gives you 81. So your answer is actually 4, but it's a negative 4. Because again, that 3 to the x had to move to the bottom to become a 1 over 81. So x had to be a negative 4. Okay, hopefully that making sense. Okay, let's try a couple more over here. Okay, now this time, well, this is a very similar one. Except I'm starting with a fraction this time. So my base is actually 1/5. Now, because it's a fraction, I'm going to put it in parentheses because it's a fraction. So I'm saying I'm starting with a base of 1/5 to some power, and I'm getting a whole number. So guys, the 5 is on the bottom. There's a 1 on top. And some power turns it into a regular number. Remember, I could say like 125. I could say 125 over 1. So the 1 over 5 could not become this right here, could not become this unless it flips over. So I know that this 1/5 needs to flip over. See that? I know that that has to flip over so that I can get the 125 in the numerator. Here the 5 is in the denominator, but my answer, the 125, is in the numerator, so I know that that has to flip over. So kind of like the other one, because I know this has to flip over, I know I need a negative number. I need a negative something. So x here has to be negative because, again, I'm flipping. Remember? I know this has to flip over. So I need a negative something. Now I just got to say, okay, the 5 is in the numerator, 125 is in the numerator. 5 to what power makes 125? Again, trial and error. 5 to the 3rd power, and boom, there's our answer. So x is a negative 3. So x is a negative 3. Okay, now here's the hardest one in some ways. So I'm saying I have some base x to the negative 5, okay, and I need a whole number of 32. See that? So again, if I think about 32 over 1, here's the thing, that negative 5 has to flip it over to become a whole number here, which means, okay, 1 over something with the negative 5 it has to give me that because that negative, remember, is going to flip over and become a positive to give me that 32. Okay, so the x has to be 1 over something. So this has to start as a fraction so that when a negative flips it over, it becomes a whole number. That 32 has to be in the numerator. So because that's a negative, whatever that number is has to start in the denominator. Now, basically, so again, because it's a negative, I'm going to flip it over. So I'm flipping 1 over something over, making it a positive 5. So some number to the 5th power makes 32. Again, trial and error. Something to the 5th power makes 32. It actually is a 2. So 2 up caret 5, you can try it. 2 up caret 5 makes 32, which means when it's in the negative mode, because that's what we start. We have a negative 5 right here. So x has to start as a fraction. So x has to start as a fraction of 1/2 because that negative power makes 1/2 flip over. Again, right here, it's flipping. Okay. And now that 2 is in the numerator. 2 to the 5th power makes 32. And that's our answer. So this one, x would be 1/2. Okay, these negative powers are challenging. Okay, I know this is kind of tough. Even back in Algebra 1, Algebra 2, negative exponents are challenging. So do your best here. Okay, try these two on your own for the assignment. Put those into into your journal, and you'll get your points. Okay, thanks guys. See you next time. Bye.